Good morning, everyone. I'm speaking to you from Burns Lake, and I would like to acknowledge our traditional territory of Burns Lake, Silcasco. Before I start, I'd like to thank you to the association for inviting me to speak today. I'm pleased to be among so many leaders of the global cannabis industry who are dedicated to strengthening and quality and innovation within our sector. I look forward to the day when we can meet again face to face, but hope that everyone is keeping well in the meantime. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Wes Sam. I am the former band counselor and chief of the Burns Lake Band for over an 18-year period, and a municipal councillor for the municipality of Burns Lake for over 3 years. I'm also the co-founder and executive chairperson of Nations Cannabis. As our name suggests, we are a cannabis cultivation company that is First Nations controlled, and we're presently making our way through the federal licensing process. We are proud to say that while our facility is not on reserve, our owners include the 6 local First Nations. I also serve as the co-chair of the First Nations Leadership Council working group on cannabis in British Columbia. And it is through that working group that we are trying to create new opportunities so all Indigenous entrepreneurs and communities can be part of the cannabis sector in a meaningful way. The working group was established in 2018 between the province of British Columbia, Cannabis Secretariat, and the First Nations Leadership Council as a forum for information sharing to advance mutual priorities with respect to non-medical cannabis. From the First Nations side, it is composed of 7 community representatives, an appointment from each of the FNLT organizations, which is BC Assembly of First Nations, Union of BC Indian Chiefs, and the First Nations Summit. In total, it represents a total of 203 First Nations in BC. The priority areas resolve around jurisdiction, economic development, revenue sharing, licensing processes, public health and safety and awareness promotion, and information and data. I always said that BC Indigenous people need a hand up and not a handout, and this comment reflects that vision. We are currently in conversation regarding several provincial policy-related initiatives and working to support First Nations access to the cannabis market. The working group will also support the development of BC First Nations cannabis strategy to complete by the end of 2021. And we'll look forward to provide input with the federal review of the Cannabis Act later this year. So to date, we have been successful in having the province implement a number of initiatives and changes to regulations and legislation in support of Indigenous people participating in this industry. Number 1, designated shelf space in provincial cannabis stores. 2, the ability to direct deliver to retailers without having to go through the provincial distribution system. And also, 3, the ability to have seed to sale in which we can grow and sell our own products. These changes will take place in 2022 and represent the work we have done in collaboration with the province of BC. Working group aside, along with co-founder Mark Storms, our company Nations set out to establish a cannabis production business that is founded on a solid business plan, strong financial backing, and created and operated through an Indigenous lens. This has taken us on a journey of ups and downs for more than 8 years, but we have stayed committed, sought out partners, remained true to our vision for creating a meaningful Indigenous business. As a late-stage applicant in the federal licensing approval process, Nations momentum was halted this year amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and construction of our primary cultivation facility was paused. Investors became concerned about the market in light of COVID-19, and so our investment was halted as well. Once work resumes, the process of seeking and securing a federal cultivation processing license will also continue. Nations will cultivate craft quality medical and recreational cannabis, but our goals are more than that. This is an opportunity to create sustainable Indigenous economic development and investment, family supporting jobs, and health and education partnerships with lasting benefits in BC, across Canada, and ultimately, I come from a region in British Columbia, northern BC, that has been devastated by the downturn in the forest industry. It's a situation that has led many of our young people to leave and pursue opportunities elsewhere. More than anything, we want to help and support in the growth in the local economic base that will provide jobs for our people. Meaningful jobs, which means some of our young people can return home where they can establish a career and raise a family. This facility will inject millions of dollars a year into the local economy and regional economy, positively affecting both Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, people, and businesses. This would represent a true economic recovery for our area, let alone the impacts from more of these projects around the province. Isn't that what we all hope for our children? The chance for a career and raise their children close to their families. We believe growing for good needs to be more than a tagline. Along with creating family-supporting jobs, we are establishing partnerships with Indigenous groups, health providers, and educational institutions to improve education and research opportunities and help provide better health outcomes for Indigenous people. Early on, many believed cannabis was going to be a cash cow and it was a golden ticket. But this was just not the case. Let me tell you, this is not the case. There's a lot of hard work in getting there. I don't want anyone to get the impression that this is an easy process. The licensing process is cumbersome and time-consuming, and Health Canada regulations require a cultivation facility to be fully constructed in advance of an application being considered for approval. And that requires a lot of capital and substantial operational investment. Is very much on supporting and advocating for a safe, regulated Indigenous cannabis sector and encouraging efforts that will further develop the safe, responsible development and sale of cannabis. As we collectively make our way through the COVID-19 pandemic, there's an opportunity for the regulated cannabis industry to flourish, support government efforts, and to rebuild the economy, and to allow government to tap into economic activity that comes with a healthy, regulated industry. In British Columbia, where we have an example of the Williams Lake First Nation working with the government to develop a micro-cultivation facility to address economic downturn that preceded COVID-19. We believe that there is the same kind of opportunity as a part of COVID-19 economic recovery in our area and around the province. We believe there is an opportunity for the regulated cannabis industry to flourish, support government efforts to rebuild the economy, and allow government to tap into the economic activity that comes with a healthy, regulated industry. And at the same time, we believe that we will also pave the way for Indigenous entrepreneurs and communities to succeed and create investment and career opportunities. After encouraging the BC government to adopt an Indigenous shelf space program for more than a year and a half, the government has made a commitment to adopt such a program. And we view this as a positive step in the right direction towards Indigenous economic reconciliation. Initiatives of this kind will help encourage Indigenous entrepreneurs to step into the space and will also have the benefit of encouraging investment into BC Indigenous companies such as ours. COVID aside, the cannabis industry is one that also has the potential to replace our declining forestry industry. It can reshape our communities, create employment and economic investment that we sorely need. The challenges that face these communities are far too similar. Large employers shutting down and industries declining in BC, in Alberta, and Saskatchewan, right across Canada. These towns, much like Burns Lake, need to look at new industries like cannabis to replace their existing ones so they can continue to provide jobs and stability and can continue to raise their families in their home community. We believe there are tremendous opportunities for Indigenous participation, but they aren't being realized because of a number of, as the federal licensing process requires a great deal of upfront capital investment, and banks have refused to help emerging company startups. The licensing process requires comprehensive criminal record checks to be completed by key individuals. Governments were slow to respond and collaborate with Indigenous people in advance of legislation to encourage the active participation of Indigenous communities in the regulated industry. From a federal perspective, the establishment of the Navigator program, an Indigenous supportive pathway to licensing, has been appreciated, but aside from that, there has been nothing of substance implemented or announced that would positively affect Indigenous participation. That said, from a prevention perspective, initiatives like the BC Cannabis Working Group have given a voice to Indigenous people. The government has taken an approach that seeks to provide paths into the legal market, and we hope they represent a level playing field that will give Indigenous-led companies an opportunity to play a significant role in developing the industry to its full potential. The announcement by the BC government to launch an Indigenous shelf space program is a positive step, and we hope a signal that government understands the important role it can play in supporting the development of an industry in which Indigenous people can play a significant role. Initiatives of this kind will help encourage Indigenous entrepreneurs to step into this space. It will also give encouraging investment into BC Indigenous companies such as ours. As I have referenced, the province moves into a period of economic recovery from COVID-19. We believe that this emerging industry can play a significant role in helping rekindle the economy while creating investment and opportunities for Indigenous people in a regulated industry. In spite of the slow introduction of regulations and opportunities to encourage and support Indigenous participation, we are hopeful things will change. We have overcome a number of hurdles, and we have learned a number of lessons along the way. And it's in the past 2 years that we've established some momentum. But to make any suggestions regarding the development of a business that involves development of a cultivation facility, they would include: make sure you have a clearly defined strategy, know what you want to do and why, and have a clear sense of how you plan on getting there. Surround yourself with professional and experienced organizations. This is a process that requires experts, quality assurance, someone who can expertly guide you through the approval process, and someone who can address all of the technical elements that are required. Don't let the naysayers slow you down. Look for those who lift you. Much like a restaurant's reputation is based on who their head chef may be, the same applies to the cannabis and a dedicated master grower. The federal licensing process is time-consuming, so ensure you have the necessary upfront capital to fund your operations. As I mentioned, it's difficult to get banks to come to the table, and there are, at this point, relatively few grants and programs that exist that might help. And from a community level, ensure to take inventory of all requirements needed to be successful. Everything from water supply access to a power grid and to access a workforce for construction and staffing, which are all key aspects of your business. And finally, because I am now 8 years into the process, if there is one trait I have developed along the way, it's the benefit of patience, a great deal of patience. We hope to see other communities join us in seizing this opportunity. For those who simply can't sit down or don't have the means, we urge them to explore the potential of partnerships with companies such as ours. Again, I thank you for letting me speak today, and you will all have a great day. Thank you.